up on stage Mr. Muktesh Sheth. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Thank you for the quick introduction. And so the first slide, what you see on my screen is like my topic itself, that is institutional, industrial, and logistic real estate. Now, since morning, we had been discussing a lot on the various supply chains, the innovations in the supply chain, the various technical aspects that we bring as a part of it. And today, I am here to basically like give you a solution with respect to the real estate part of it. We build warehouses, we build industrial buildings, and so on and so forth. So that's something which we are coming up out with here. Slightly different from what we had been discussing since day one in the morning itself. But however, like this is definitely something which each of you will feel important about, because that's the core of any business. So I just would like you to just visualize this image for a while. Like this is basically one of our grade A facility in Chakan, Pune, with multiple buildings out there. Now, I just want you to time travel along with me maybe 15 or 20 years back and just imagine a situation of a warehouse. I'm sure the first glimpses that will be coming to your mind would be like go down or godam in Hindi, as we call it as. So we had came up a long way after that. Now, if I, it's not working. Yeah, sorry, it's not working. Sorry. So the basic infrastructure, if I talk about, then it was more to do with the storage spaces. There was nothing called operational efficiencies or future scalability, etc. Over and above, there was no standardization. Today, like we know, when we are talking about a grade A or grade B or grade C facility, what it actually means. So a grade A would be like a PEB precast or an RCC building, maybe a 9 to 12 meters of height with a 5 to 6 tons of floor, proper lighting to an extent of 150 lakhs, or for that matter, even the fire NOC part of it, fire alarm systems, power, etc. All in all, I can say that the building which is constructed as per the National Building Code. Now, unfortunately, those things were not present at that point in time. So what are the key drivers, which has been driving this particular demand for industrial and warehousing real estate in India? Obviously, we all know the evolution of industry from the FMCG, e-commerce, and 3PL part of it. They had came a long way. They have seen an excellent growth in last 1 decade with the new emerging concepts of just-in-time, just-in-sequence, through which they also cater to the industrial demands, and even warehousing as a service, which is something that is now coming up with backed by proper technology. The speakers in the morning had talked a lot on those technologies, so I won't touch on those aspects. But definitely the next point, that is changing business models. This is something which is very important, because as I told earlier, this particular facilities long back were funded by a particular company. They used it for their captive use, etc. And there was no innovation that was brought as far as the building was concerned. The safety standards and other things were compromised. Whereas now the trends are moving. Today, when I talk about a warehouse or an industrial facility, when a particular client asks about it, then it's more to do with they being capex light. People no longer wanted to invest into land and building. So that's where we come into the play as an institutional players, and we invest into the land, building, specific utilities, etc. And that's how the things had been transforming. Talking about the international players which comes to India, maybe in the warehousing domain or industrial domain as well, they too want a plug-and-play facilities, and that's once again where an institutional developer comes into the play. If I talk about the macro trends, obviously, the COVID-19 thing, we all had learned the hard way, and we all had adapted to that. But at the same time, the global supply chains had also seen a huge realignment. Even the policies from the government had been very conducive now. Now, if I talk about the logistic part of it, then the PM Gati Shakti Yojana or National Logistic Policy had been very instrumental in the achieving the overall growth with respect to this particular warehousing sector. Similarly, from the manufacturing part of it, obviously, when it's more to do with the initiatives from the government like Make in India, or for that matter, PLI schemes, which individual states offer to the various companies that come in. And the China plus one strategy. That's something which has changed the tables in India recently. So talking about the growth and the absolute numbers perspective, then I have some figures with me which talks about the overall demand in terms of various sectors in this particular domain. So if I talk about the overall total stock across the top 8 cities in India, then it was pegged at around 438 million square feet. And this particular stock, what we are talking about is basically all put together A, B, and C. For the grade A players, the stock of the top eight cities had been around 88 million square feet way back in 2019, and today the same is close to around 238 million. So that's a compounded annual growth rate of close to 22%. Obviously, when we talk about the real estate part of it, we also talk about the rental part of it. So the grade A average rent pan India had been close to around 25 rupees per square feet, and that too has been growing at almost close to a 5% increase year on year. The gross absorption in that includes the renewals, etc. in India in last year had been close to around 66.9 million square feet, much higher than 58.7 million square feet in 2023. So this shows a phenomenal growth as far as the demand is concerned, the absorption is concerned in the Indian market. Talking about various sectors here, we had seen, while talking about the e-commerce first, because that's where it has increased from 4% to 8%. Now, e-commerce sector, as you know, the demand had been stagnant post-COVID regime because each of the e-commerce player had gone for aggressive capacity expansion. But however, it's good that the last year it showed increasing demand. The 3PL sector, the demand, it showed a slight dip as far as absorption is concerned. It's 34% vis-a-vis 37% in 2023. The auto engineering, FMCG, all this were a stable growth like in 2023-24. The most important is though it's about just 2%, 12 to 14 is others. Now this basically talks about the industrial demand in India. So whenever basically we talk about an industrial demand, it's generally an inverted pyramid. The Indian share as far as the warehousing demand is concerned is close to around 75%, whereas or 80% in the total absorption in India. But the industrial is only 20 to 25%. That too concentrated on the key major cities like Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai. So these, and even Ahmedabad for now. So these are the few cities where the industrial demand is concentrated. So what we as an institutional players bring onto the table. Obviously, we help Indian and international companies to basically establish their footprints in India. We become their real estate partner. We provide them solutions pan-India in terms of their establishments and their requirements. Land obviously is very critical to any business, and that's where we come into the play. We set up our industrial parks at the right locations, and at the right cost of land as well, because we generally keep on expanding in various geographies in India. So the first proposition, obviously, when I talk about an institutional developer is focus on the compliance part of it. Today, every company, maybe Indian, international, everyone has to be compliant. So from the grade A perspective or a grade A developer, that is something which is very, very important. Clear titles of land, environmental clearances, building occupancy certificates, fire NOCs, etc. is a given. So that's something wherein the trust part comes into the play when we talk about institutional developers. The other important thing is, along with compliance, is flexibility. With respect to the sizes, with respect to businesses' adaptability in India in terms of when they are coming to India and how they actually move forward into various phases of their business. The next one is obviously the commitment of timely deliveries, because that's also very critical. Quality control and services are anyways a given when in this case. The locations that we bring in, our parks basically are located in tier 1, tier 2 cities, very in close proximity to any of the industrial development corporations or within the industrial development corporations, and has an excellent connectivity with the road and also the required talent pool. The campuses that we build are more or less self-sustained, and it's a gated community with all recreational facilities like sports arena, multi-purpose courts, open gyms, etc. Now, this particular amenity part of it, like, you might have seen everywhere, like, we talk about IT parks and things like that. There, this element is already there, but unfortunately, this glamour is not there when we talk about warehousing or industrial. But we tend to bring in this element as a part of our parks, our own development within the parks. The last and the most important thing is the expertise and global experience. So we, as an institutional developer, like, we had worked in various geographies, not just in India, but in international as well. So we bring in a lot of knowledge, a lot of know-how with respect to the processes that an individual client follows, their operations, their requirements in terms of utilities, etc. We do invest a lot of time in their layouts and designing so that we are right at the first go itself. And then obviously with meticulous planning, the deliveries are generally smooth, and that too in a stipulated time frame. Talking about the component related to investment. So yes, we do have an ability to invest. It's not just investment into the land and building, but it is also investment into specific requirement of clients, like their own tenant improvements, which calls for, like, they might have requirement for cranes or HVAC or clean rooms, etc. So we also tend to invest into those elements as well, thereby making them capex light. So talking about various models in leasing, so as I told you earlier, leasing definitely brings a lot of inherent flexibility. Imagine a company, an international company, who wanted to establish its manufacturing setup in India. Now, the struggle starts right from the land acquisition stage itself, followed by approvals, maybe for the buildings, maybe for the land, etc. And eventually, if they do good in business in India, obviously they will run short of space. So that's where, once again, there is a capacity constraint because the investments are already made into land and building. And God forsaken, if it doesn't go good in India, then exits are equally difficult. But that's not the case with leasing as a model, because you had that inbuilt mechanism wherein you can go with shorter lock-ins, shorter leases, taste the waters in India, and start your business. Talking about build to suit versus ready to move in, this is an interesting concept. Ready to move in buildings are generally the speculative buildings, which almost all the institutional developer will have it at various stages. Like, it could be nearing construction, mid or something, or it could be ready. And this particular segment, the ready to move in, is more suitable for standard warehousing needs, or even for that matter, industrial, wherein industries which are basically assembly driven or who have assembly line operation, light manufacturing, etc. Build to suit on the flip side is like, highly technology oriented in terms of its requirement, in terms of the overall specs of the building. They are completely different from the standard specs. So, and this particular BTS setups are generally being approached in a way that we generally tend to replicate the existing facilities or the industrial facilities of a particular company. Obviously, there are a lot of investment that goes from the developer or institutional developer side as well into the various elements which I described earlier. Lease and buyback. Land obviously is a scarce component. Today, most of the companies which comes to India, like, for them to go ahead with the land, it will take quite some time. So what happens here is this particular lease and buyback is a logical extension to the build to suit component, wherein while we invest into their business in terms of its tenant improvements, etc., but at the same time, we give a buyback option. So say, like, our investments are spread for around 10 years, then, like, the costs are amortized over 10 years, and post 10 years, we give them a buyback option with a predetermined cap rate based mechanism. So talking about more on Horizon Industrial Parks. So Horizon is a Blackstone logistic platform in India. Blackstone happens to be the world's largest alternate asset manager with more than 1 trillion USD in assets under management. And 40% of its global real estate equity portfolio comprises of logistic business. Horizon is a trusted name today as far as grade A warehousing and industrial facilities are concerned. We had grown through our acquisitions in India in a short span of around 3 years. We had grown from 6 million square feet when we started to 50 million square feet today. Today in India, we have 40 parks in 9 different geographical markets with a cumulative square footage of 50 million square feet and a land bank of close to around 2,000 acres. The strategic land acquisition and park level compliance, etc., I had already talked about. So my focus in this slide would be more on the project development part of it. So at Horizon per se, we have a project team of close to around 150 plus professionals, who are into design, MEP, construction, contracts, CHs, PMC, etc. And basically, we also take care of operational management and as well. So the parks that are operational, we have a separate team for that. Which take care of routine maintenance and the necessary hand-holding of the client during their lease tenure with us. So we can say that we are offering plug-and-play solutions in true sense, while scalability and future expansion things are given. We also concentrate on a lot of other aspects like solar energy. We have in fact installed the rooftop to an extent of in all the buildings which are there in our park pan India. So most of these parks, what we had told earlier, has a solar rooftop installed in our tenants' premises. And the capital investments, as far as this is concerned, is being done by us. Recently, we had been also doing a pilot project for the blue-collar housing within the premises. Now, this is something new. We generally don't find this setup of blue-collar housing in the parks. So this is where we are currently doing some pilot testing in Farooq Nagar. And we are also setting up Center of Excellence for Logistics. This is particularly for securing the trained manpower. Talking about our overall portfolio, we have 100 plus tenants in our portfolio, and 60% of this tenants represents the warehousing segment, and 40% is definitely industrial. But here there is a key statistics that is, as I told you earlier, the industrial demand in India as far as leasing is concerned had grown phenomenal, and Horizon had been no different in that. So 60% of our tenant base today comprises of 60% of the transactions rather which we did in last 24 months had been industrial transactions, and 2.2 million square feet built up area that we had offered in last 24 months was BTS. So that explains the scale of development in terms of BTS and industrial growth in India as well. These are some of the companies or partners which are into diverse sectors with us. So we have a couple of companies in logistics domain. We have companies in e-commerce, retail, oil and gas, packaging, auto components, engineering, aerospace, and a lot of other sectors as well. So you can say, you will find all the top names as far as the Indian or global markets in concern in our portfolio, which also vouches for our technical expertise in terms of offering them specific solutions. ESG obviously had been very critical to us. We have 6 industrial parks which are already IGBC Platinum certified. We have already surpassed our 20% green energy target, which was in 2024 and was set for 2025. We are also on track for our other initiative with respect to the installation of solar panels to an extent of 27.6 megawatt within our parks. And we also have a diverse workforce or a talent pool in terms of 18% of our total workforce contributes of women, 3% PWD, and 2% are veterans. So just talking about a few glimpses of the BTS projects that we had executed in India. The first and foremost is the SIG. This is almost a 7.5 lakh square feet of built up in Ahmedabad over a 32.5 acres of land. and these companies mainly into aseptic cartons. So we have just delivered the first phase of 3.2 lakh square feet recently. The second one is Yazaki. Yazaki happens to be into wire harnessing. Now, this is obviously an excellent example of repeat business. Like, we had been matching their expectations with respect to their requirements, and timely deliveries extra. So the first plant was commissioned by us in 23. The second one immediately in 24 in Farooq Nagar, and the third plant we had just done the groundbreaking in Chennai as well. Last but not the least, we also had done a BTS for cold chain facility of IG International. IG International is India's premium importer and distributor of fresh fruits. So we also had done an excellent facility for them as well, matching their standards. So that's the reason it is qualified under BTS. So with this, it brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for patience.